negocios en Atos, la empresa Atos de Alemania, desde donde él nos está transmitiendo en estos momentos. Allá para Ulrich ya es otra hora, ya está terminando la tarde y por eso agradecemos más su amable presencia. Ha servido durante 16 años en el consejo, en el board de IBIP Organization hasta abril del 2018. Y brevemente, porque su experiencia es muy amplia, desde enero del 2017, Ulrich Ahle es el Chief Executive Officer de la Fireware Foundation, como les mencionaba, con sede en la ciudad de Berlín, en Alemania. Ulrich nos va a dictar el tema Source and Open Standards for Smart Cities of the Future. You are very welcome, Ulrich. Go ahead, please.
Yeah, muchas gracias, Javier, and buenos días. Lamentablemente no hablo español, therefore I need to continue in English. And I will share my presentation, which you should be able to see now.
It's okay. Go ahead.
Okay, that is perfect. So we are more than convinced that our future, our digital future, will more and more gravitate around data, around information, describing what's happening around us. And not only what's happening around us, but where, when, and why this is happening. But today, these data are very much organized in silos. In silos because interfaces are not open, data models don't fit to each other, or there is no trust in how my data will be handled. Will it be secure? Will it be handled according to agreements we have done? And our mission at Fireware is to break down these data silos and to make data available on platforms to be used for smart applications in the context of smart cities, to increase the quality of life of people living in the cities, and on the other hand, to reduce the cost of operating a city. We are doing this by capturing the data from the real world, excuse me, as it is shown here, putting them into what we call a digital twin, so a digital representation of the real world, then using artificial intelligence, big data analytics to process, analyze, and monitor this data, to update the digital twin, and finally, to provide this data back to the real world or to actuate out of the digital twin into the real world. We talked before about autonomously driving cars, and an autonomously driving car is nothing else than a car which is operated within the digital twin, but is driving in the real world from A to B. Now to come to the question, what's Fireware? Fireware is a framework of open source software components. So we are not providing a complete IoT platform, not providing a complete smart waste management, smart lighting, smart parking solution, but we are providing software components, software building blocks. And here, the Fireware Context Broker is the most important one. Second, we are providing standard interfaces. And here, the next generation service interface, as it is called, is our standard API, which was developed in the Fireware ecosystem, became a de facto standard, especially in Southern Europe, starting in Spain, in Italy, in France. And since 3 years, it is a formal standard, standardized by a European standardization organization, but also outside of Europe. For example, the Bureau of Indian Standards has applied this interface to become the standard interface for smart cities in India. That was second. Third, smart data models. So standard data models providing a common language, how to exchange data. And finally, reference architectures describing how to use all these components and to build them together. And this very simplified architecture here on the left can be seen on the next page in more detail. And this is our reference architecture for smart cities. You can see again the context broker in the center. At the bottom, or southbound, as we call it, this NGSI-based interfaces to get access to data wherever they are coming from. Yeah, be it from cameras, from sensors deployed in a network, from drones, from other IT systems, from social media, a very important source of information describing what's happening around us, or from already installed intelligent solutions within a city. But very often these solutions have been installed as a data silo. And again, it is important to get access to this data, make them available, and then use functionalities like artificial intelligence, big data algorithms, workflow management, dashboards to visualize the data and to use this data for smart solutions. And in the meantime, more than 300 cities around the world in more than 30 countries are using FiWare for the digitization of their cities to create their smart cities. And we have published these cities in a FiWare for Cities book. We are actually working on the 4th edition of this book. It will be published next month during the during the Smart City Expo World Congress in Barcelona. And there will be more detailed descriptions of 125 out of this 300 cities. It will also be available electronically so that you can use it online. And all these building blocks I mentioned before, the software, the interfaces, the data models, have been used either by end users directly or by system integrators, by consulting companies to create FiWare-based solutions and products. Yeah, you see here powered by FiWare platforms, powered by FiWare solutions, but also trainings and services, system integration, consulting is available based on FiWare. You find this marketplace on the FiWare website, and there are in the meantime more than 200 of these offerings on the FiWare marketplace. In the category of platforms, you find actually 20 of these FiWare-based platforms. You mentioned I'm coming from Atos originally, so the product from Atos is called Urban Data Platform. The one from NEC from Japan, for example, is called Cloud City Operations Center. We have a very new one, which is not yet mentioned. That's coming from Amazon Web Services, because also Amazon joined the FiWare endeavor, and their FiWare-based platform is called the Smart Territory Framework, operated based on the Amazon cloud. And two other examples are from engineering. It's an Italian company. The platform is called Digital Enabler, or as I mentioned, from NEC, Cloud City Operations Center. So these are all data platforms with a purpose for smart cities. But the platform as such does not provide any value to the citizens. It's just collecting data, and now it is a task to use this data and to create smart solutions, intelligence solutions using this data. And I would like to show you 3 examples of implemented solutions using such data. Let me start with a city from the Netherlands. The city is called Eindhoven. That's the mayor of Eindhoven. And there is one street which is critical. A high crime rate. The street looks like this. Just 1 kilometer long, 55 bars, a lot of alcohol and a high crime rate in the past. And what they did is they installed cameras analyzing the moving patterns of the people. No face recognition. You know, we are in Europe. We have this General Data Protection Rules, GDPR, and there are no personal data managed, just analyzing how the people are moving. Second, microphones. And again here, no speech recognition, no personal data, but sound analytics, loudness of the sound, aggressivity level of the sound, and so on. And third source of information is, again, social media analytics. So what's actually posted in Facebook, in Twitter, publicly with relation to this street. And by combining this data and information, describing what's happening in the street, the system is able, by using artificial intelligence, to provide prediction services for the police. So the police officer in the control room gets the right pictures in front of him or her and is now able to decide to either send proactively police people there, because the system is telling him within the next 3 minutes, it might become critical in this point of the street. Or the police officer has the opportunity to increase the level of light in this part of the street. Yeah, also Philips, you might know Philips as a light producer. They are part of this project, and the police officer can dim down and up each segment of the street. So there are different segments in the street. And it is proven that in more than 80% of the cases, it is sufficient to increase the level of light to de-escalate an upcoming critical situation. And it is proven that in more than 50% of the cases, or that the crime rate has been reduced by more than 50%, that there are less damages in the bars, that the police people are utilized more efficiently, that there are less transportations to hospitals, and the image of the street and of the whole city has been increased. Just by using data, using open source, using open standards, and creating smart solutions out of this data. Let me come to another example, which is in this case from South America, from Montevideo, capital of Uruguay. They installed a network. They learned about 5Air 4 years ago at the Smart City Expo World Congress in Barcelona, asked their utilities company to take these building blocks, interfaces, data models, and create a smart city platform for Montevideo. They have several applications there in traffic management, in public transportation, also in water management. So they installed a lot of sensors in the city to create a real-time flood warning system. This is standard business, absolute standard business. What's really high sophisticated is that they are using this sensor data, enhancing it by soil hydrological and meteorological models. So the ability of water consumption by the soil, the weather forecast, and enhanced by hyperlocal data from the, oh, there's a wrong word in there. It needs to be citizen apps. So from the apps of the citizens, and again, from Twitter, Facebook, from social media. And by combining this, all this data, the system is able to create a prediction model. Montevideo several times has situations like they are shown here on the top right of the slide, with heavy rain situations in the backland, which is causing flooding situations within the city. And the citizens have an app which is intelligent. The app is learning, where have I parked my car? Like also Google can do it and does it. And the citizens getting a personalized warning saying, for example, with a probability of 80%, there will be at the place where your car is parked within the next 20 minutes, half a meter of water. So better drive your car somewhere else. And these are individualized messages for the citizens. And I think latest here, we can see that such digital solutions are improving the quality of life, not only of the citizens, but also of the cars within the city. And the last example from a more rural area, in this case from Spain, it's a region of Badajoz. Badajoz is the largest province in Spain, but there are only small cities. The provincial capital is Badajoz itself, with a bit more than 100,000 citizens. And then there are a lot of cities and villages with 5,000, 10,000, 15,000 people. And they said it doesn't make sense to create a smart city platform and solution for each and every single city. So they decided to create one for the whole province. They decided for a platform called Thinking Cities from Telefonica, based on 5R, have in the meantime 29 different smart solutions on top. So for smart waste management, smart lighting, smart water, smart tourism, and so on. And the different cities are able to activate these smart solutions for their usage. They have started to build trust between each other. They have a common KPI system and are able to compare each other. So where is one city doing better in waste management, for example? And what are the reasons for that? And how could another city learn from this city? And they have a common open data portal, and they have dashboards, so data visualizations for operational people. For example, when does the trees in the park need to be watered again because it is too dry and the next 3 days will be no rain, so better to water the trees. Or executive dashboards for the political decision makers to allow them to take fact-based decisions. And we are bringing in all this technology, which you have seen, into something which is more and more called data spaces. Yeah, I talked about digital twins before, but we are here, at least here in Europe, at the dawn of the data spaces. And there are also data spaces for smart cities in preparation. And in this white paper, you can find our contribution to the creation of interoperable data spaces. And we brought this into an alliance with 3 other European organizations. And this alliance is called the Data Spaces Business Alliance. Together with 3 other organizations, as I mentioned, the Big Data Value Association. You might have heard of a large initiative in Europe called Gaia-X, and the International Data Spaces Association. And within this, we are creating a common architecture for the creation of interoperable data spaces. And here we are using, out of the paper I mentioned before, standard building blocks to create this data spaces. And again, here you can see as some of the building blocks, common data models, so the smart data models from 5R, standard interfaces or APIs as they are called. You find here again NGSI from 5R, but there are also other building blocks coming from the other partners of the Data Spaces Business Alliance, for example, for a trusted exchange of data, for access and user control, but also for mechanisms to create value out of data. Because this is very important for the sustainability of these data spaces, to be able to generate money out of the data. Otherwise, the data economy, and especially the data spaces, will not be sustainable if we are not able to create money out of it. Yeah, and we created this alliance 1 year ago. You see here the 4 presidents who signed the Memorandum of Understanding, and in the smaller picture below, the 4 CEOs of these 4 organizations. And our target is to create one common framework for data spaces and to talk with one voice to the market. Extracting value out of data is something I mentioned before. Within these 4 organizations, we are combining more than 1,000 members of these organizations, not only from Europe, mainly from Europe, but not only from Europe. And we created a working plan for this, where again, one very important task is the common framework, the common technology framework, to be able to talk with one voice to the market. But it's also important to support the deployment, the creation, and also the operation of data spaces. And all 4 organizations have, in one or the other way, so-called hubs. Hubs are local organizations, local offices, local showrooms, where people can come together and where we are gathering requirements from the market, but also which are used to transfer the messages to the market. And on the next page, you can see the map of these hubs coming from Gaia X. They have hubs coming from IDSA, BDVA, and 5R. So together with Gaia X has one hub outside of Europe in Japan. The other ones you can see on the global map, on the smaller global map, are from 5R in Africa, in North America, and also in South America. So I mentioned before, more than 300 cities in over 30 countries, which makes 5R to the globally leading open source technology for smart cities. So it is open source, available for free for everyone, and it's open standards, standard APIs, standard data models. And these are reasons why so many cities are creating their smart city based on 5R technology. Other benefits are a large open source developers community, which is maintaining and further developing this open source software building blocks, and a large group of startups and also global corporate companies which are using this technology to create platforms and solutions for the end users. In this combination, 5R-based solutions are providing the lowest cost of ownership for the end users. And this is the last line here on this slide, maybe the most important one, that by using common data models, standard APIs, so standard interfaces, the so-called vendor lock-in effect can be avoided or at least dramatically reduced. Coming to how 5R was created. It started 11 years ago as a public-private partnership of the European Commission with several dozens of European companies, universities, research organizations. And it started 2011, so 11 years ago. And already in the first 5 years, 500 million euro were invested into the development of the technology and the creation of the ecosystem around. 300 million from the European Commission as funding, 100 million from the private side, so from the company side. And already in the first years, an additional 100 million from venture capitalists who started to invest into companies who are creating solutions based on 5R. In this case, mainly startups where they invested. And to bring all this investment into a sustainable future, the 5R Foundation was created by 4 companies. And these companies are Atos Engineering from Italy, Orange from France, and Telefonica from Spain. We are headquartered in Berlin, as Javier mentioned before. And out of these 4 founding members, we rapidly grew, and especially Corona gave really a push to us. We grew to 550 members all over the world. And on the next page, I will show you some of the members who joined us. Our task as 5R Foundation is to manage the ecosystem, to make sure that the software and the technology is of sufficient quality, performance, and scalability, to enhance the former focus of smart cities. This is where 5R started. Also to what we call smart agri-food, so digitization of farming and food production, smart industry, including Industry 4.0, and smart energy, and since 1 year also to the domain of smart water. So how can digitization help in the management of fresh water, wastewater, and surface water, like we saw it before in a flood warning system? And finally, the globalization of 5R. It is a technology standards which were born in Europe, but we are more than convinced to be sustainable in a global digital world. This technology needs to be accepted and adapted on a global scale. And that's why we are very proud to have so many members in the meantime. So 550 actually. Here in the center, in this small center, you see the highest level of membership we do have. That are the so-called platinum members. So Atos, Telefonica, Engineering as founding members. Then 1 year after the creation of the foundation, NEC joined us, coming from Japan. Was followed by Trigen from India. And last year, Red Hat from the US, the open source company Red Hat joined us. 3 months ago, Amazon Web Services, also from the US, joined us. And 2 weeks ago, we were able to announce the city of Al Medina as a platinum member in the 5R Foundation. And these platinum members paying a yearly membership fee of 100,000 euro to the foundation. So our team is financed by membership fees. We are not doing any commercial activities. Yeah, you can't buy us for consulting services or something like that. We are financed by membership fees on the one side and by participation in publicly funded research and development programs, but no commercial activities. Yeah, this is the story about 5R, the open source platform technology for our smart digital future. And that was my presentation. Open for your questions. And I will stop sharing to allow me to see you again. Yeah.
Muchas gracias. Muchas gracias. Como siempre, te agradecemos mucho tu participación, Ulrich. Como siempre, también nos actualizas de una tendencia global que yo llamaría, esta es una globalización buena, una globalización sana, a healthy global communications and works for the future of the cities. Estoy viendo aquí algunas preguntas. Bueno, they are thanking you in the questions and answers chat.
And maybe Javier, just to underline this globalization, we have out of these 300 cities, there are the first 25 in India, 30 cities in Japan. Colombia is going with 5 Saudi Arabia, and more countries really, not only cities, but really on country level, also outside of Europe, are adopting these standards for their cities of the future.
Yes. Well, thank you very much. Muchas gracias. Agradecemos mucho a nombre del Instituto, del IMSIS, tu participación como siempre, y nuevamente esperemos que tengas la amabilidad de acompañarnos en futuros eventos con información tan importante, tan interesante como la que nos acabas de compartir. Te mando un abrazo.